Hello, welcome back. Today I'm making a sketchbook. I've made many sketchbooks. It's really fun. I wanted to show you how I like to do it, although this is also going to be new for me because I'm making for the first time a sketchbook with the Coptic binding method, which is known for having an open spine so that it can lay super flat. All of the sketchbooks I've made in the past that have spines on them haven't really laid super duper flat, so I wanted to give this a go and just see if I like it better, if it's a new method I want to try, or go back to my old one. Found some other notebooks that I have made. Even though I gave away a lot of mine, I made them for people, so that's why I gave them away. I made it in the same way that I would make a photo album, but I just made it as a sketchbook, and there was like a stupid reason I had to do it that way, but that I won't go into, but it just means that each page is separated by a little tab. Oh my gosh, the buses are so loud this morning. So it just means every page has this in between. But I sort of like this one. I don't like the paper that's in here, so I haven't really been using it. But I'll try to, or it'll become a photo album. But I love this paper so much. But yeah, this has a spine, and then as you can see, I mean, it lays a little bit. It's not super, I don't know. It lays a little flat. So that's why I did it this way for a long time, and I may continue to in some ways, but it's certainly not with this thing in the middle. I can't do like one full spread that way. That's a version of a book. Sometimes I make them like this, which I've shown before, just like a quick little soft cover. This one laid pretty flat as well. Which is probably because it doesn't really have a spine either. All I did was, like, I made it normally as a block with no spine, and then I just made the spine out of book cloth only. Like, it has no structure to it, so it's really flexible. So this one does lay pretty flat as well. So I guess there are other ways to make the books lay flat. And then another style that I've made is this is like my original reason for making books in the first place, because this is an oil primed paper sketchbook. So it's for oil painting, made with the paper that comes on the gum pads pre-primed, ready for oils. This is like not something you can buy, so I had to make it myself if I wanted something like this. Yeah, I finished it. You can only do one side because this is the back of the paper. It has no priming on it, so everything is just one side, which is good because then you don't have like two facing pages of oil painting. But yeah, I like how that turned out, and I like this little flap that I did. I also made this, which I do have a video on how I made this. It's on my other channel, which is a sewing channel. I don't post on that channel very much, but I do sewing and like leather crafting and things like that on there. I really debated for a long time. I don't want to go into it right now, but I debated for a long time if I would make a separate art channel. I did, obviously. But I do have a whole video. I can link it if you are interested in how I made. It's like a traveler's notebook, so it has 3 notebooks. I made all 3 of these, although not in the video, but happy to make a video on how I made the 3 of these. Mostly that video is about how I made the leather cover. But yeah, it has pockets, a pocket, a pencil holder. So yeah, book making, binding is really fun. There are so many options and so many different ways you can go about it. So once I folded all of my pages, which I only did 10 from that gum pad, by the way, I'm marking 5 equally distant points, with each one on the end being about an inch from the edge. And then I'm just using a slightly bigger awl to make them bigger. And then I can take the next one, slide the first one inside, take the little awl, because I don't want to puncture, I don't want to keep putting the big one inside of these holes and making them bigger and bigger. So I'm going back to the little one and I'm marking those holes in the next page, the next spread, or signature in this case because it's just one. And so now the original one can go in a new pile. And I will make these holes a little bigger. I may have a paper problem, a paper buying problem, that is. But look how beautiful. You can't tell me I can't have this. I mean, this was wrapping a gift that I received. Like, of course I'm gonna keep this. And this is just tissue paper, but like, but look at it. This is just a gift bag, or like, you know, something that I bought came in this. But of course I kept it. To save space, I wrap a few together, so it kind of makes it a little tricky to see what's in there. But it is necessary. Look, eggplant. This paper's cool. It's like, it is paper, but it looks like it feels like leather too. It's been treated somehow, and it has this like croc emboss, but it's just paper. This one has been sewn into, has thread. All right, let's figure out what's happening here. In addition to full sheets of paper, craft stores also have books like this where the pages come out and unfold. Okay, I was gonna do this one. I was thinking like, oh, summer, spring, summer. This is so nice. But, and it's also double-sided. But I do make sometimes photo albums for anyone, but like sometimes I make them for my friends who are maybe having a baby or something. And not that I'm a proponent of like blue for boys, pink for girls or anything, but I think even like whichever side I think is just nice for any baby. So I think I may just like save this one. Okay, I think I'm gonna do this one. Similar idea. Luxury printed paper by Wanderlust Paper Co. If you're interested. Okay, so in addition to the outside paper, the cover paper, you can use the same paper on the inside as your end paper, but I don't usually do that because I often go for like just a solid piece of paper on the inside. So this is the end paper. It's what connects, well, it's not the only connection point. In between here is another connection piece. It's cloth in between this end paper and the cover itself. The end paper like hides it, protects it, whatever. That's why you have this like awkward moment, because it is glued to your block. But this is also not how I'm going to be doing it in this particular sketchbook. This is how I usually make them. I didn't make this. This is from Choosing Keeping in London, but I usually make them in this way. I'm not doing that today. Today I will have a fully separated cover. So I guess this is still called an end paper, but I just need whatever's going to be on the inside. And so I just usually save the prettiest paper for the outside. Not always, but often. Like the baby albums is maybe a moment where I have a pretty paper inside and outside, but just for my own sketchbooks, I tend to do, I have this this like booklet of just cardstock that's different colors, all these colors. I got it from Joann's or Michael's or something. So I just kind of go through. I'm out of a lot of these colors in here, but I just kind of go through. I'm really feeling the yellow. I also have just some extra paper that's like this creamy yellow, and honestly, that's so good. I'm out of most of my greens, but let's see. Oh yeah, there's just one of these. That would have been so nice. Yeah, I don't have very many greens. I do have, nope, I just have one pink. Yeah, there aren't like a ton of each color in these blocks, so I run out of like all the good colors, and then I'm just kind of left with the rest of them. It's fine. I'm gonna use, I have a ton of this. This is just pastel paper. I'm gonna use this. So this line that I drew is the exact size of my block, but it's nice when the cover hangs like a few millimeters, like 3 millimeters over both the top and the bottom. So I'm now going to add another line 3 millimeters away on the long side, and then I'm gonna do 6 millimeters on this side so that I compensate for both the top and the bottom. It's also important that you have some kind of cork or rubber on the back of your ruler, because that will keep it from sliding around. This is a 3 millimeter gray board or bookbinding board. I have this cheapo guide thing that I bought a while ago, and it says 15 millimeters on it because that's how much overlap we need, or the minimum overlap that we need. You can always do more, but I try to conserve my pretty paper. Because I'm at the bottom here where there's this print, I just want to double check, and I think we're good, but you know, when this gets flipped over, it won't still be seen from the front, which it won't. The glue I'm using is made for bookbinding, but it's essentially like an archival Elmer's glue. Do this. our bone folder, and we just want to smooth it out, apply some light pressure. A little tip is that you actually want to leave a tiny amount, like 2 or 3 millimeters from the very point, and it'll get kind of folded in and look nice. If you cut it just at the point, like exactly at the point, you will have a teeny bit of your Davy board showing through. So that's actually it's more than a tip, it's actually pretty important. And really, like, you know, tightly but gently, I'm pulling this over. I want it to be really flush against the side here. This little part, you just want to take your bone folder and kind of smush. Before we get to this other side, we want to kind of crease that and smush it in. That little bit of the corner that was left, we want to just kind of crease it and smush it. If you wrap your active glue brush in plastic wrap, it won't dry out. Okay, that looks great. Okay, I'm gonna make this second one. Now that they're both done, it's time to press them, because when we use all that glue, they get very wet and the boards can warp a bit. So I just separate them with a bit of paper or wax paper or plastic, and then I use these heavy books. And look how flat they are after maybe half an hour. Okay, I think ideally I would have gone from the outside in, but I'm just gonna push my papers back down, because the hole is there, but we don't need it to be so dimensional, you know. Okay, so how we measure our thread is we count the number of signatures we have, which is 10, and we do 10 lengths of the thread across the length of the signature. I like to leave about 2 inches as a tail before I start counting, and this is a waxed linen thread, which is ideal for bookbinding, but if you are just trying to use what you have, any kind of like thicker embroidery or like lace weight crochet yarn would be fine. And then this is a curved needle, but if you just have like a tapestry needle or just a slightly thicker needle, that's also fine for your first time. So this next part is a bit tricky to explain, but we're weaving from the inside out to start, and we're leaving a little bit of that tail. And because we're doing a Coptic stitching method, we go around and through that hole in the cover, because we have to now bind our cover to the block, which is different from my usual method. So we go around the cover, and then we want to loop around, and basically we're making a knot around that initial thread that went through the hole of the paper. This is a kettle stitch. But yeah, in general, I found this method of binding really difficult compared to just making the blocks separately and then adding the covers later. Mostly that was because it just didn't want to hold still and I couldn't get the thread tight enough. It kept tearing the paper and it kept like not being tight against the cover. It was really frustrating, so I talk a bit about it here. Hello, good morning. It's the next day. I ended up doing almost everything but the last page and the last cover because they kind of get put on together. But I wanted to show you some problems I was having because this has never happened to me before. I mean, there's a lot of firsts in this sketchbook project. For one, I've not used the gouache paper in a sketchbook, like of my own making before. So maybe, and then of course I'm doing this Coptic binding technique for the first time. I normally would do it a little differently if I were doing, a book with a spine and stuff. So I had really significant tearing. Like it happened a lot, and normally I can give like a decent tug on the string and not worry about it tearing. But it tore almost, I don't know, almost every time. So I put like some washi tape. I just have this cute one that sort of goes with the cover a little bit. I put it on the pages. I mean, it didn't tear this much, but I just put a big piece to reinforce the tears. And the washi tape sort of sticks to this paper, but not super well, which is another issue, but it's fine. It just means like, I think it's okay. It just means a few things. One, my stitching is ugly. I have like moments like this where it's like really wide because it made a big hole. So that's not cute. And then the other thing it means is that in some pages, if I can find one. So sometimes I'll open it and there's washi tape there. I kind of don't mind this, if I'm being honest. Yeah, it doesn't actually bother me. I kind of like it, if I'm being totally honest. It gives it a little wabi-sabi, if you will. But it's not a good thing that it happened. So I do need to kind of figure that out and understand like what I can do differently next time. Because I just know I'm gonna be making these more because I love how flat this is. First of all, that was like the main problem to solve, and then second of all, I love this paper, so I don't want to use different paper unless I find different paper that I like just as much. But anyway, I'm ready for the cover. It kind of goes on with the last page at the same time. Okay, so to get this on, we're gonna use these both at the same time. Alright, my understanding is we go in through this, and pull. This one doesn't really tear. There's no risk of tearing really, so I'm giving it a hearty tug. And then because we're moving in that direction, we're gonna come in through this way on the, I mean, we're basically making a knot when we do this. And then because like in the other ones, we would go back in through the hole we came out of, but we came out of the cover, so I believe That's when we go in through the hole of this last page. Which it feels very loose, so I hope I can get this. And we're going to go back out this hole. I'm kind of holding the first one taut because it keeps, I don't want it to like get too loose. Oops. I did sort of I'm pulling in the direction of travel, which is what I've been doing this whole time, but it still kind of rips even when you do that, which is, it's not supposed to happen. And very frustrating. Okay, so coming back out this top hole. I think this is working. Okay. Skipping a hole to the part where we are skipping a level until we can make this loop. Okay, sheet is done. A slight confession is that I actually took it all apart again. You may notice now that the strings are white instead of purple. Yeah, I was having a lot of issues the first time around. It was very gapey. It was like tearing really bad, the paper. I don't necessarily think that was the string's fault, but I did decide to, when I took it all apart and then I reinforced all of the pages on the fold, so there's a little bit of tape here. Not ideal, but I could paint over it if I wanted to. It's on the inside as well. And it's fine. Ideally that wouldn't be necessary, but I do think that it feels a lot sturdier. It definitely lays really nicely now. It lays a lot flatter, and this gap is much closer. It was really wide before. Like the whole thing was too loose because I couldn't pull the string tight enough because it would tear the paper. So I redid it. I used smaller thread. I reinforced the fold like I just showed. And all in all, I think it looks good. My spine is okay. I'm gonna work on my hole placements a bit more, make sure it's a bit more lined up. Normally I don't care because I'm also making a spine and it doesn't show that in the end. And also there's glue and there's like fabric here and more paper, and it's all around a bit sturdier. So I'm gonna see how I feel. I actually got started painting on it to see if I liked it when it was the first time around. And then kind of a funny thing is that I wasn't paying attention when I was putting the pages back together, or I was, but I just kind of forgot that I needed to do it in the reverse order. So the page that I had started was, it's now the last page. So I don't know if I'll just work on random pages, or work backwards, or just finish out this page and then start over from the beginning. But I thought that was kind of funny. I didn't realize I was doing that. It's fine. All in all, I think it looks good. And I guess I'll just see how it compares to, in general, working on my books that still have the spine on them. I feel like in the end, this wasn't necessarily easier. It was a bit less, it took a bit less time overall. I would say that's for sure. When I make my books that have spines, that process is much longer. I can't really do that all in one day. I did this technically all in one day, although I redid some of it, but theoretically it would be one day. Yeah. So I'll just have to see how I like it, if this is a method that I want to continue with or go back to my other one. Okay, thanks so much for sticking around this long. This was a super long video, but as a little treat, here is a small painting I did in the sketchbook. I think my final thoughts are that, I don't know, I don't love this method of bookbinding, and I think the main reason for that is because in the end, even though I redid it and it was definitely much tighter, all in all it felt a little too precious. Like, I was being very careful with the sketchbook, and I don't like to do that with my sketchbooks. I want to be able to just like toss them around, throw them in a backpack, like not worry about it. I mean, I use my fun paper, which I don't want to get too messy, but other than that, like structurally, I don't want it to feel like it's gonna fall apart or that I need to be careful with it. So I think in the end I'm gonna go back to my original method of creating more of a spine, using all the glue, using fabric to bind it together so it's much more stable. Yeah, that's my thoughts. I love trying new stuff and just seeing if it works, so I'm not sorry I did it this way, and I think it's beautiful in the end, and I'm definitely going to be using this sketchbook through to the very last page. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more bookbinding stuff, let me know. I'm always curious about what people want to see, if there's anything besides just painting that people are curious about. I'm doing this painting, by the way, with my dried gouache palette. I'm sort of prepping for a trip I'm about to take. We're going to Southwest Michigan, where the lake is. We're going to Saugatuck and all the other towns around there, which is one of my favorite places, and I'm really excited to paint the scenery. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!